All right, welcome back to the DNA Pest Control Podcast. Today is going to be talking about day 2, which was yesterday at the Pest World 2021 Las Vegas. Sorry about getting to you guys a little bit later. And this, I guess, technically is day 3, not day 2, but day 1. There is nothing going on other than the exhibit hall. The exhibit hall is nothing. It's just registration. So, but anyway, so the second day, first day of classes, I should say, is I went to a few different ones. So there was quite a few to choose from. If you are just listening into Pest World, you have classes starting on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. They have 3 blocks of classes, and you get to go to essentially 3 different ones. And from that, they have classes from termites, so WDO, from general pests like ants, rodents, to business things as well. And so the first one I went to was actually consumer buying habits. That was the class. So I actually took a picture of that class when I was in the very back. And essentially what that was talking about is they went through the numbers, and the numbers were going through and showing you what consumers were buying today, what they were worried about today. And this was a big thing I was talking about yesterday on the podcast was coming to these shows, you do get the upper hand, and you get to learn this information that you don't typically get anywhere else. You can try to Google some of this stuff, but you don't get it. This is all current, up to date. This is, these are some things that they did. So, a big one that I took away from this class, okay, so the consumer buying habits, is they went through a few different things. Professionalism. Are you professional enough? What is your company appearance? Trustworthiness. Knowledge. And a big one came back to is appearance is key. So if you don't look good, if you're going to start your own company, I know a few guys out there that already have or are doing it, and you just buy a white truck or you have a red truck or whatever color your truck is, and you just have a t-shirt that you throw on, that's not the appearance that you need to go for. You may get by from in the beginning that way, but eventually to take it to the next level, you are going to have to get uniforms. You are going to have to outfit your truck. Your truck is going to have to look good and fairly new. It can't be old, run down, barely working. You do need to worry about your appearance. A lot of small companies actually don't care. The one that I took over, the lettering on the trucks were faded. You couldn't even see some. They were done who knows how many years ago. I know at least one was done like 5-6 years ago. The other one was done who knows how much longer than that. The numbers were they weren't good. You couldn't see it. Nothing was visible. And so they needed a whole makeover. And I did. I changed everything on the trucks. The uniforms I've even changed. I went from just a long sleeve shirt without a collar to a collared long sleeve shirt. Professionalism is key when it came to this class that they were talking about. The other thing is when you're getting to homes, it's, the trustworthiness to build with the customer is, are you offering to put booties on when you're going inside? Are you wearing a mask in some areas? I wouldn't say that's everywhere because some people don't really want you to wear a mask. They don't like it. So you got to really fill out your area. And then some of the bigger things that consumers were worried about is a big one was ants. Is a big concern, and they went through different age groups, but ants was a big concern overall. Mosquitoes were actually topped that list. So ants was first, mosquitoes second, then wasps and hornets were third. Now, don't take that as law because it all depends on when they ask these questions. If you ask someone, are they concerned about wasps or hornets in the winter, I bet that actually that was number 3 on the list. That would be down at the very bottom of the list because they're not seeing any of those things right now. Where rats and mice actually might be at the top of the list because they're currently having those issues. So it really depends on when they ask these questions. I didn't ask the lady when this survey was taken. It could have been over a spread, amount of time. But they got people from 25 years old up to 75 plus. And so they got a pretty big range of consumers, and they were asking them specific questions. Would you hire, a pest control technician? And the younger generation was more likely. The older generation was less likely. Once again, this all depends on your area and where you are. If you're getting some of the older generation that's in lower income, they're probably doing it themselves. If you're getting an older generation in a high income, you're probably getting paid to go out there and do it. They understand the value of their time, where you get lower income people who don't understand the value of their time. And they would rather spend their time doing something than paying somebody to do that for them. And so that was a big one. So a big one, and I'll throw out there, that's a big one for me, and I'm going to push, is so 45% and less would get on a regular service. Okay, so we're talking out of 100 people, 45 people would do a regular service. So that's a big number. 55 of those people wouldn't do a regular service, which to me shows me there's a bigger number of one-time treatments out there that you can capitalize on if you're a company. A lot of people looked at this probably negatively, or in the opposite of, oh, hey, there's 45%, I can grab those contracts. But you're just fighting over, such a small percentage, where 55%, if you don't do one times, that's a big amount that you're losing. So I looked at that as kind of a cool thing. Let's see here. A big one of DIY, so they also focused on this at this class, is, the millennials, Gen X, and boomers, to be more specific on the age groups. That's who they were focusing on. And the DIY solutions, flies were a big one that people would go and buy their own stuff to take care of before they would call us. Mosquitoes was another one that they would do. Ants was even up there on the list pretty high, that they would take care of it before calling us. Now, we already know some of these numbers. Obviously, termites, people would not try to do it themselves. Interesting that millennials were a higher percentage of they would try it themselves first and then call someone, which is crazy to me. I don't even know why you would try with termites, but some people get that. Same with bed bugs. Millennials were the highest on that list too. They would try first and then they would call. But lower down, bed bugs, harder insects to take care of. It was more likely that they would just call us than actually try it themselves. Where when you get to the flying insects, flies, mosquitoes, regular ants, spiders, they were willing to try it themselves and then call. So some interesting things. Another one where it was a big thing that they were looking for, a lot of consumers are looking for today, and this is a big thing that I've always tried to do, and so I'll throw my little secret out there to everybody who's listening, is convenience. I know convenience is a big one. I saw it as I was growing up, is everything started to shift to right now. We need results now. We need to do it now. I want it done now. I want my package now. I mean, Amazon was a big game changer because they went to 2-day shipping, right? Sometimes it's even next day. The only thing that Walmart has over that is you can go into the store and buy it today on some things, so convenience is a huge factor when it comes to people booking pest control. And a big one is they're impulsive. And so a lot of people are buying because they see bugs now and they want a solution now, and then they'll keep you forever or for a couple years, right? So if you do not get out there now, you're going to lose them to somebody else. And so convenience was a very, very, very big thing. Professional appearance came up there as well. Skills and attitude. Knowledge was a big one that they kept hitting on, was you need to be knowledgeable. And I love it because that's a big thing that I have over a lot of people in my area, is a lot of technicians are not knowledgeable in certain insects. They think they are, which is perfect. I love that they think that. But then we get there and we completely turn some things around. You know, a quick example of they think they're knowledgeable is the greatest question: are these rodent droppings fresh? Nobody knows that. Nobody knows unless you're going to go and crumble it in your fingers, or there's a ton of dust on them. You really don't know how fresh one is. You're going to tell me you're going to crush one in your fingers and say, oh yeah, that was 38 minutes ago that this was, that the rat just pooped here. We don't know that. And so a lot of technicians jump the gun because they think they're going to trick people into buying their service by saying, oh, you have a lot of fresh droppings up here. And then they never catch anything. And then they get bad reviews, and then they get fired. And then they call us to come get the job done correctly. So, knowledge and things like that is a huge one. And I've seen it where I've taken, even from the big guys, we're talking the top dogs in the industry, I have stolen clients from easy because their technicians come in there and lie to them. And luckily these people are smart and they get multiple, opinions on the matter. And, we walk away with it. Now I can also say I've lost people because I haven't gone out to the home quick enough. Okay. So that could gain you a ton of sales just by creating something same day, within the hour, something along those lines. You could really boost your sales, a big one. Okay, I'll move on. So let's see. So they had the first source to find pest control. Obviously, a big one was friends and family recommendations. So having a referral program, if you don't have one, actually I'll talk about that in one of the other classes I took yesterday. But that's a huge one, is referrals. The next one is on online review sites, Yelp, Angie's List, BBB, etc. I don't think BBB is actually very relevant anymore. It seems like Gen X had the highest percentage of looking at it. Millennials were the lowest, and baby boomers were just barely above that. And that's because BBB is really fallen off. They're crooks. They want to charge everybody hundreds and hundreds of dollars to be on their website to boost their ranking. And it used to be a big thing about 10 years ago, which would make sense with the Gen X. But it doesn't make any sense for the boomers. That was kind of out of their age range because they weren't really on the internet, and they weren't really looking stuff up. And same with millennials, because it really started to die. It shot up. It was the biggest thing out there, and then it died. And so I think millennials kind of missed that, where the Gen X still have that a little bit. But I would focus mostly on Google, Yelp, more relevant things. Angie's List has even changed. I think it's now just Angie. And talk about other crooks. They're terrible. So if you're using them and you have a good experience, good for you. I had a very terrible experience with them. We spent like 20 grand and we made, I think, like 21,000 from it, for how much money they took for each lead and things like that. I mean, it was crazy. It wasn't even worth it. But then they went on to talk about millennials and Gen X and boomers and what social media platforms they use the most. And boomers obviously were the least amount, where most people think, oh, well, the oldest generation is on Facebook, which was a lie. Actually, millennials, so 25 to 40, they were the highest on Facebook, where everyone thinks Facebook's kind of this dying thing. Facebook is not. It's actually very, very high on the list. Instagram was up there. YouTube was higher than Instagram, which was very interesting to see. And then they have Twitter, then they have TikTok, which is very, very low, and boomers are not even on TikTok, which is crazy. At least the boomers they talk to, 0% were even on there. And then you have Facebook Messenger, which I don't think actually counts as social media. It's just a messaging platform. But anyway, that counts. And then they went through a few other things like WhatsApp, Pinterest, Snapchat, things like that. But Facebook and YouTube were a big one. So if you're looking at marketing somewhere, I would probably choose one of those two. You'll probably get the best results. The next one is So what they chose, let's see. So it was kind of the messaging, not messaging, the importance of your message, what you're telling customers, right? So what your guarantees are, things like that. And so a big one that everybody wants to know is guaranteeing to control pests. Are you guaranteeing it? If you're not guaranteeing it, it's less likely they're going to come to you. So if you're not guaranteeing rodents, you're not guaranteeing spiders, they're probably going to choose someone who says, we guarantee rodents, we guarantee spiders, right? The next one is credentials. So credentials among the Gen X was the highest. That's what they wanted to hear. Also guarantee to control pests amongst the boomers was the highest. So customer reviews and testimonials. Gen X, once again, that was a big one for them to choose. Price was Gen X as well. That was a big one. Boomers seem not to care about price. It doesn't really matter how much it costs. Just come get it done. And millennials were right there with the boomers, is they didn't care as much at what the price was. They just want you to get it done. Where Gen X really focused, how much does it cost? And then commitment / service to my local community. Millennials were a big one that cared. Gen X were more that cared. And then boomers didn't really care about that at all. So kind of interesting. That kind of summed up that class on some of that information of what the consumers today are looking for and what we need to focus on. Another big one, and I love it because I always see these. I need to take pictures and post it. But when you're doing advertising, make sure you're advertising the pest that's happening during the time that the pest is out, okay? And you say, well, what are you talking about, right? What does that mean? Excuse me. What that means is during the summer, when you have the most ants out, don't post something on rats. Don't push a rodent service. Don't push, another good one is in the winter, you're starting to have rodents. Don't push wasp and hornets because you know that there's not any around. So why would you be pushing that? Outdoor cockroaches, they're dominant at the beginning of the summer and at the very end of the summer, right as it starts to get cold because it starts forcing them inside. Those are the times to push ads. You don't push ads for cockroaches midwinter. Nobody's seeing any right now, right? And I'm talking about the outdoor cockroaches, the Turkestan roach. That's when I would be pushing that. So be relevant with your ads. You start a company, you think you're going to throw some ads on Facebook, you got $50 to spend on, per week. Perfect, right? Be very smart about it. Okay, be very smart about it. Think about what you're pushing before you start pushing it, because you could push one thing and no one's seeing it and they look at your ad and say, meh, who cares? Or a good one is a local company in our area put up a ton of billboards saying local technicians. Well, duh. Wait, what are you getting technicians from another state that are just like jumping over and working for a week or what? Of course they're local technicians. We know that. So the whole ads, they spent probably thousands and thousands of money. I hope they fired the marketing people on that. But it was just funny to see this up. And then they had their little sign at the bottom saying, locals. And I'm like, oh man, you guys just wasted a ton of money on nothing. So be very relevant and really push what's going on in your area now. Don't talk about other things. Okay, we'll move on to the next one. So the next one, man, the guy was really cool. This one was a bad one. I actually had to leave early on this one. I couldn't sit through it. It was pretty bad, but it was about urban rodents, and I couldn't tell you. Let me look up the exact title for you, because it was actually really, really interesting. I really wanted the class. I was hoping he was going to hit some really good information, but I was deceived. Let's see. Oh, it's not going to let me. Okay. Anyway, the whole class was about urban rodents, mice, rats, and everything. And the guy was actually from the Netflix documentary Rats. So if you haven't seen it, go see it. It's actually really good, really interesting. But he went through and he had some very good points. So there was this study they did back in like the 40s or the 50s. And this was kind of like the first study. I don't remember exactly where it was. I didn't take a picture of the slide. But anyway, what they did is the city went out because they had this massive rodent infestation. And so they went out and poisoned the rodents, right? And they had this massive drop in population. And then the population came back. And so then they went out and poisoned again. And then a drop in population. Not as much, though, but a drop in population. And then they stopped, and then they had another increase in rodents, and then they poisoned again, and it was just less and less and less as they kept poisoning. So finally they got sick of it, right? And they said, you know what, poison's not working. This is crazy. So what we're going to do is we're going to do sanitation. So we're going to take essentially all the food away, so the rodents can't have any food whatsoever, and the population almost disappeared 100%. I mean, it was down to like I think 10 rodents that they saw. That was it. And so the big thing that the big push was sanitation. You want to get the best results from any restaurant, from any home, anything like that. Sanitation is key. So I did have a podcast about the correct way to control rodents. And I am not a firm believer in just bait. I never have been. I think bait is a good help. I do not think bait is the cure-all. I even talk about it in that podcast that you need to seal up holes. You need, when you are doing the trapping process, you do need to take away other food sources. He pointed out every label for bait, there's one sentence in there, and it says, remove competitive food sources on every single bait label for rodents, which is the same actually when it comes to cockroaches, when it comes to ants. We want to put the food closest to them, and we need to eliminate the other food sources because they will choose that over. So they are going for the best thing. The other thing is he talked about, so sanitation is a big factor that we need to focus on when you're controlling rodents, but also sealing the home if it's possible. He talked big on cities, right? I'm not doing pest control on city streets. Okay, sorry, it's Sacramento. We're in the rural areas. We're not in the city. I'm not contracted by the city to come out and take care of rats. It's not New York. We don't have a rat pandemic going on or endemic going on. So it's, it's not as serious. He was focusing on this is what you need to do on a city level. Yeah, that's cool. I'm not city level. Okay, they don't really care about me as much, and they'll probably pull a guy like him in to figure something out, and then the whole city will work together to get it through it. But anyway, a big thing was sanitation, and that's what I pulled from it. But if you can seal buildings, because he knew you can't seal all these buildings, and he's right, you can't seal buildings in New York, right? There's so many underground pathways and everything, it's impossible. But at a home, you can. And so you can do that. Now, another big thing that he talked about was placing traps and bait stations in a safe area or in shadows. So in the city, which makes sense too, if you're coming out of the city, but they're going to be in the shadows. They're going to be in the dark. They're going to be in safe areas. If you're not putting the bait stations in safe areas, they're probably never going to get hit. So if you've ever placed a bait station around a home and you just happen to place it on the side of a house and it's open, well, duh, of course it's not going to get hit. Why would it? They're not going to be out there. They're going to be hidden. You go to storage units. Where are all the bait stations at storage units? Outside, around the exterior of the building. They hardly ever get hit. Why? Because they're just sitting on the outside of a building. How many rats are running around the outside of a building in broad daylight or even at night being exposed? It just doesn't happen. So he had a really good point there. The other obvious one is remove all alternative food. That was the one big thing on the label, but also that's a big thing that you have to keep in mind. Unfortunately, after that, he kind of went, everything kind of went sideways and a little weird. He was really focusing on how to throw trash away. So I don't know why or what he was going on with that people don't know how to use a trash bin correctly, but apparently nobody knows how to throw trash away correctly, and at what times and everything like that. And that's a big cause for these in New York, the rat population. Okay. Moving on to the last class, which I had to leave early, so I didn't get to see the end, which I was a little bummed about. But it was Strategy Link. Okay, that was kind of the name of the class, and it was by a guy from Rocky Mountain Performance Excellence. They're essentially a group that gets a bunch of businesses together, and they brainstorm. And their whole purpose is to perform excellent, right? So to be better than everybody else. And he really pinpointed a lot of stuff. So sorry, the pest control section's over. I'm not going to be talking about pests anymore, so you can turn me off now if you want to keep going. For the business guys, managers, this is going to be more for you. So he talked about some really cool stuff here. A big one is when it comes into business or even into your office and you're a manager, you need to have constant improvement. You need to become more effective, right? And become an organization that learns and improves. And you say, well, why are those 3 points important? His big thing was constant improvement. If you're not improving consistently and trying to make yourself better, someone else is going to do it and they'll eventually push you out, right? So why do you think I come to these classes to learn? So that I understand what's going on in the market, so I know what's happening in the pest control world, and so I can change my business to get to the next level. The other thing is becoming more effective. Well, you say, duh, of course, right? But your routing needs to be more effective. Your trucks need to be more effective. Your equipment needs to be more effective. You have to look at everything on a bigger level, okay? So the effectiveness, not only on that side of things, right? That's just service side. Well, what about phone calls? What about sales? What about preventing callbacks, preventing cancels, getting more sales, getting more services, upping your price, becoming more effective in those areas? You have to look at everything. And a big one that small business owners don't get, and it's really hard to get themselves pulled out of. And I have 2 examples. I have a brother who has a business, and he is a diehard workaholic, right? He's working on 10 projects at once. I mean, just absolutely drowning himself in work, where he can't get out and think to be more effective. How do I become? How do I improve? How do I learn? What can I learn? He's just constantly work. And I have another brother-in-law who's the exact opposite, right? So he got to the point where he doesn't have to work anymore in a truck. He doesn't do pest control, but they have trucks, they have vehicles. And so now that he doesn't have to be in a truck, he just goes home and he doesn't work. So he's not improving his company. He's not looking at how do I become more effective, or where do I learn? Where can I learn? How do I improve? He just stopped working. And so as a small business owner, as a pest technician who wants to start his own company, this was a really good class and an eye-opener for me, because he talks about creating a strategic plan to grow. And you say, okay, well, yeah, that's just selling more, right? No. So that's looking at everything in the business when it comes to your ads. How are your ads performing? How much money are you putting into the ads, and what are the outcomes? Not taking your feelings into it, right? Because a lot of us say, well, it's because right now it's wintertime and nobody wants pest control. That may be true in some aspects, but there's always something going on with a certain pest during the year. Someone may not want you to come out and spray for spiders in the winter, but people need you to come out and take care of rodents in the winter, or bed bugs, or German cockroaches in their kitchen. So, that's where you need to have that strategic plan. How can I grow consistently throughout the year and not just do it part of the year? He talks about, creating that strategic plan through recruiting employees, budgeting, creating more money, right? And he went through what they use is a strategy link scorecard to assemble organizational facts/data around what and why to link with how. Okay, that was probably really weird. But the whole point of this was he was trying to get you to understand the importance of removing your emotions from a decision and looking at the facts. So he did a whole healthcare thing, and they were looking at essentially referrals from hospitals. An old person goes to the hospital, and with a family member, of course, because they're old, and the doctor says, hey, you need to put your old person in a home. And these are the references. Here's 3 references to 3 different homes that we prefer them. And so now these places would get, essentially they were getting referred, right? So now they're getting people calling them and saying, hey, send us the application. We want to look into you and kind of move to the next step. So these people were getting 4,000 referrals or whatever. Anyway, numbers don't really matter. The point of the matter was they were only getting 36% of those referrals. So out of 100, they would get 36 people. So 36 people said no, which is a ridiculous number, because even in pest control, you call my company 9 times out of 10, I'm going to sign you up because you have a problem right now. So if I can't find the solution to your problem right now, I have a problem. Okay, but now he's saying, okay, pull everything back. We need to find out what that problem is. And so through this strategy link scorecard, he's going, okay, what is the strategic challenge? Theirs was converting over the leads. And then he went voice of customer and voice of business. Now we need to find out what the customer thinks. Why is the customer not going with us? And why does the business think that the customer's not going with us, right? So you go through and you ask the industry. And then it goes to key outcome measures. And so that the key outcome measures is, as a manager in the pest control world, you can say, okay, I have 100 people calling my office on a monthly basis just to buy pest control. I only have 36 people signing up a month. What do I need? You talk to the office. What's going on? They tell you what they think. You go to the customer. What's going on? They tell you what they think. Then you go run the numbers. Okay, if your office is good, they're keeping track of why people are going away. I say, oh yeah, hey, my pest control service is $89 every 2 months. And if someone's like, ooh, okay, well, I'm going to call around. Okay, so price, that's an issue. Okay, so 1 out of the 100 people did not sign up because of price. Or you go to the next one and they say, oh, I have a contract. And they say, oh, do you have anything else? Do you only do contract? Yep, only contract, sorry. Okay, I'm going to have to call. I'll call you back. Okay, so you have 2 people, right? So one person went because of price, another person went because of contract. So now you start to build up all this information. Most of us should already have it, but you build up this information to finding out why people are turning the service away. Okay, now that you've pulled all that information in, now you can look at everything on a strategic level, not emotions, not what I think. I think a lot of people are turning us down because of price. No. Is that really it? Or is it something more? So now you go into it and you dive in deeper. And then once you find the little key factors of why that's happening, now you can start to focus on what to improve. And then you're pointing, everybody, then you create goals, and then you'll do an action plan and go through that. But his big thing was you need to really sit down and look at the numbers. Don't think, I know why, or I think this is why. It's sit down, pull everything out, and really understand the problem that's going on. And you can even do this on a very small level. Let's say you're a route technician. That's it. You work for someone. You're listening to the podcast, and you're like, dude, none of this crap applies to me. It does. You're going out and you're doing 16 jobs a day, okay? And you're doing those 16 jobs a day in X amount of time, 6 hours, okay? Wow, you're flying through the day. How many callbacks do you have on average? You find out how many callbacks you have. How many people are canceling? Go talk to the office, find out, hey, this is my route. How many people canceled? I need to keep my route high so I keep my commission high. So give me these numbers. You could break down these numbers and find out, okay, look, I'm going too fast on 16 accounts. That's why I'm creating more callbacks and I'm having more people cancel because they're not satisfied with my service because I'm only spending 10 minutes a job where I should be at 20. So you can really pinpoint and strategically find out what's going on your route, and you could build your route. Then, as a route technician, you maximize your dollar per hour because your commission is high now. And soon, eventually, the manager or the owner is going to come and say, hey, Joe, what are you doing? Like, you're getting 16 to 18 accounts done. You have almost zero callbacks. You have zero cancellations. Everybody loves you. And your checks are more than anybody else. What are you doing? And soon they're going to start pulling you in and saying, hey, we want you to, you got to come sit with us. You got to come be with us. Because now it's going to change everything. So so understand that is you can do this even as a, small technician just running a route, or you need to do this as a business owner or a business manager. Or an office manager, because this is going to help you maximize your numbers. And I don't know how pay structures work where you may work, but a lot of things come down to performance. If your performance is low, typically your bonus is not going to be high and your pay may be at stake. If your performance is high, you get bigger bonuses and you're more than likely going to get pretty good raises on a consistent basis. So it all just depends on what your pay structure is, but this is how you do it. This is how you strategize. Take the time to figure out how that works. The other big thing is problem statement questions, okay? So this one is to keep your emotions out. That was a big thing he hit on, is keep your emotions out. It's not what you think, it's what it is. What is the problem, not what you think the problem is. And so he went on there and saying, what? What is the problem? And then the explanation is what happened or what is happening, right? Where? Where does the problem occur? And he put in for explanation entire location or specific area, right? Your route, you're going too fast, which is creating callbacks and cancellations. Okay, so where is it going to be at your at your area? So at your home that you're servicing. When does the problem occur? At all times or at a certain time of the week or month? Well, this is happening on a day-to-day basis. And when is going to be every single day at every single job, right? So this is how you break it down. And you say, how? How often does the problem occur? Is there a trend or a pattern? Are you only going fast when people are not home, and then you're going slower when people are home? You need to find out that trend. What is that? Why is that? Look at the numbers. If you have a system, the system will tell you the average time on each job. It will give you all of those numbers. And if you don't have a system that does that, I suggest you get one. They're not as expensive as you think. And then they say magnitude. What is the magnitude? Okay, so how big is the problem? You want to measure this because you may be focusing on, I'm going too fast, but the real problem is you're not spraying enough, or you're not using the correct chemicals, or you're not saying goodbye after you get done at the house, right? So we may be looking at the wrong problem. So you need to find out exactly, is the problem big enough? Is that the real reason? And then the impact is, what is the impact? So why is it important to solve this problem? So if it is spending more time at the property, and you could get your cancellations from 10% to 5%, well, that's a huge amount of numbers. And if the customers are going to like you more, then you could start to spitball and say, hey, well, now that I'm doing really good, maybe I should start asking for references. And then I'll start gaining sales, and I'll start creating more. So that's kind of the breakdown that he wanted. But the big thing was he wanted you to pull everything out. So you wanted to keep the data in and opinions out, okay, and solutions, out of the statement. So that was the problem statement questions. You don't want opinions in that. You don't want solutions in that. That's not the time to figure out a solution. The time to figure out a solution is later. The time right now is we're trying to find the problem. So now that you find what the loss is, you will need to create goals. And then it kind of goes through the process, the value stream map. As you're looking at each step, you'll be able to pinpoint what the real issue is. And while you're looking at the issue and you're finding this problem, you're more than likely going to already have a solution for that problem come up through this process, which is really nice. So on all levels, the strategic planning, the strategic thinking is really pulling yourself back, the emotions back, and looking at everything from a 10,000-foot view, right? You're in an airplane, you're looking down at the whole city. That's what you want to do when you're dealing with problems. That's what you want to do when you're looking at certain things, numbers that are coming up too high, like cancellations or callbacks. Take a step back. Okay. So I hope that helped out. I hope somebody learned some things from that. That was from the first day of classes. I am actually about to head out to go to the second day of classes and check everything out there. There are some good ones, and hopefully I'll learn a lot more from it, and I will be throwing out another episode back at you. So I will be missing, just so everyone knows, I am going to be missing the classes on Friday. My airlines decided to change the time that I was flying out to another time, which I'm not happy about, but I have to leave on Friday. So I was just hoping I could leave it in the evening, and I really didn't want to spend the money to get another flight. So I won't be here on Friday to give you the updates on those classes, which I'm kind of bummed out about. Well, maybe something will change. Maybe I will be. I don't know. But you will be getting at least day 2 or day 3 of Pest World and day 2 of the classes. And everything I learn, I'm passing it right on to you guys. So I'm not holding anything back. And this is what you get. This is exactly what it is, at Pest World. And hopefully this will help you actually decide if you want to come. And you can. Remember, you don't have to pay for the whole thing, which can kind of get spendy. You can just pay for the classes. So typically where Pest World is, you'll get a ton of local companies sending all their technicians out to go take classes, to get continuous education hours, or just to learn and better their knowledge. Remember, keeping that culture of learning is huge in this industry. But remember, you can always DM me on Instagram at DNA Pest Podcast, or you can email me at dnapestpodcast@gmail.com. If you have any questions, concerns, you want me to go check something out, let me know. I'm here. I will go look at it for you. I'll go talk to these people. I'll get you their numbers if you want. Just let me know. I'm here to help. But thanks for listening to the DNA Pest Control Podcast.